I'm Georgette Miller. Welcome to our show. Now, the purpose of this show is trying to demystify the foolishness. It's basically a show trying to get you guys to understand how money works. The fact that money is a commodity and money's always best spent in your pockets. We need to come up with this new idea that we need to keep money on our side of the table as opposed to constantly just handing it out and shelling it out to others. Let's roll. Welcome to our show. I'm Georgette Miller, and the topic of the day today is the middle class. Now, there are many of you out there that's sitting down looking at us saying, okay, I'm a resident of the middle class, right? Between my husband or my spouse and I, we make over six figures. We have a really nice home. We have two really nice cars sitting in the garage. And we wear really fine threads and we dress our kids really well. We have taken up residency in the middle class. We're here to demystify the foolishness. Now, listen to me. If at the end of the day, when you get your paycheck, you have to pay Mary, Jose, the 12 disciples, everybody, and you're unable to save from your paycheck so that you can pass down wealth, newsflash, you are not a member of the middle class. As a matter of fact, there is no real distinction between you and the working poor, because at the end of the day, you have no savings and you are unable to pass down wealth. We'll be right back to really get into the nitty-gritty of what it means to be a part of the middle class.
I became a real estate investor. I wasn't savvy at it. I made a lot of mistakes. But after I purchased my first building, I thought I had everything under control. I refinanced after I did all the work and got the second mortgage consolidated, and things were doing well. Then I went into another house. I bought another house and tried to do the same thing that I did with the first property, but the economy changed. The housing market changed. I had a couple of bad contractors, and I was working with my credit cards to do the same thing I did with the first property. It didn't work. My mortgages alone were running me like $2,300, and credit card debt, I was in like $100,000 worth of credit card debt. Then I had timeshares, and they were running me on the average of $400 and $500 a month, just the payments and then the maintenance fees, and I really didn't know what to do. So I prayed. I really prayed. And I asked the Lord to guide me. I'm a born-again believer, and I know I felt like He was leading me to do the things that I did. When He told me to go into the bankruptcy, I fought it. I really did. Because my pride, I'm 55 years of living, I always had good credit, everything was wonderful. But it started changing. And for me to have to file bankruptcy or to even think about it was something I didn't want to do. I had a regular job, my husband had a regular job, and we still do. But also we had a couple of bad tenants. That really, I forgot about that. That started really making it bad too. When we weren't getting the rents from the properties, it affected everything else. In addition to the bad contractors and the credit card interest increasing, when we weren't getting those payments, it made a big difference. So, you go into real estate thinking you're going to get good tenants, you're going to pay, and it doesn't always have to work out that way. The fact that I have a very good husband, he loves me so much, and we really didn't argue about money, but as cool as he is, you could see he was getting a little tensed, a little snappy every now and then. I'm very fortunate to have a husband that did not bombard me with, well, you got us in this situation, because he took as much responsibility as allowing me to do what I did, what we did together. And so we didn't blame each other. But when I married my husband didn't have one dime of debt. And so I felt guilty about that. I wanted to set up a retirement for us that we would have ample money to live. And I wanted us to retire at an age that we weren't so old that we couldn't enjoy our retirement. And that was my whole objective. When I got so far in the debt, I was like, God, I don't see it anymore. I don't see that retirement anymore. How am I going to get out of $150,000 worth of debt? And that's when he told me to do what I did.
Welcome back. Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty of it. Now, let's talk about salaries. Again, many of us believe that, okay, I make 6 figures between my spouse and I'm a resident of the middle class. Let's talk about what middle class means. What middle class means really is this. You have the ability on whatever salary you have to accumulate assets. You have the ability to accumulate assets that you can pass down from one generation to the next. So you have the ability to pay all your bills, but you still have the ability to buy a home. You still have the ability to put away stocks, to buy stocks. You still have the ability to put away for your child's education. You have the ability to do all these things on whatever income you have. So the long and short of it is basically being a part of the middle class is not tied to a salary, so to speak. You can have a couple that makes $70,000 a year, and that couple has figured out a way to just merely live on $50,000 a year. So what happens? They've found out a way to take $20,000 out of their salary and save, invest in their retirement, in their child's 529, in all these things, so that they're prepared for a better financial future. Now, when we come back, we're going to talk about perception versus reality, and we're also going to talk about what steps can we take to get on the road to financial security. So the question for you guys is this: are you a part of the middle class? I want to bring a statistic to your attention, and it's this. Since the year 2000, the United States has lost 10% of its middle class jobs. In the year 2000, we were about 72 million middle class jobs, but today we're somewhere in the neighborhood of about 65 million middle class jobs. And what I'm trying to get across to you guys is this. Being a member of the middle class is basically your ability to pass down something, your ability to accumulate assets. And therefore, what does this require? It requires you living basically within a budget. Now, Elizabeth Warren, who is one of my heroes, has proposed the following budget for us. She indicates that 50% of our income should go towards our necessaries. Again, 50% of our income. So if you're making $100, $50 should go towards your mortgage, rent, food, utilities, whatever you need for your life to survive. 30% of your income, or $30, should go towards your wants. You may feel like you need to have a cable box in every room. You may feel like you need to have an iPhone every year, but that is a want. And 30% of your income goes towards your wants, $30. The remaining $20 should always go towards saving. We need, as a society, to move away from a society that lives on credit to a society that saves. Because we know that hard times come. We know that there may be a time when we've lost that middle class job. And we must have a resource so that we remain in the middle class, we don't fall out. We must have a security blanket, our savings, that we can either rely on when the hard times come, or we will have to pass down to the next generation. We'll be right back. And in our next segment, we're going to take calls and questions from you, the audience. There are many of us that believe we're rich. Why are we rich? We have the 4-bedroom, 3.5 bathroom house. We have the 2-car garage that has two $70,000 cars in there. We carry Louis Vuitton pocketbooks. We dress in the flyest threads. But at the end of the week, when we get paid, we have to pay Mary, Jose, and the 12 disciples, right? We have to pay everybody, their mother, their cousin, and their wives and friends at 29%. So we have the trappings of wealth. We rich. We think we are ballers, right? Let me tell you who is a baller. The kid that comes out of college, got their first job, saved, and got an apartment or a house they could afford. And what I said, we're going to get into the house or the apartment you can afford. He or she then saved and bought a car cash that she could afford, or he could afford. They walked into the store and bought their suits cash. Why? They couldn't buy 10 suits, even though it would have been nice to buy 10 suits, but they would have to charge to get the 10 suits. They bought 1 or 2, what they could afford. Why is this individual a baller? A true baller. Because when he or she gets her check, it's hers. The person that bought the 10 suits, or the person that's living in the $500,000 home with the two $70,000 cars with the Louis Vuitton pocketbooks and the fly threads, when they get their check, they have to pay everybody and their mother. Let me tell you, that person is not a baller. That's a baller on a budget. And they're on a budget because they have to pay everybody. They cannot pay themselves first. They've set up their lives so they're constantly in debt. And that's what I see this all the time in the African American, the black, the minority, the black and brown communities, where when you look at them from the outside looking in, they look rich, right? They look like they have all the trappings of success. But when you peer behind the veil just a little bit, you see they're indebted to everyone. They went into debt to create this lifestyle. This is crazy. We got to get a new money mindset. We got to understand how money works, and we have to understand the difference between wealthy and being rich. Welcome back. This is the part of our show where we like to take questions from you, our audience. And our first question is from Jim on Facebook. Jim's question is, how can I change the class I was born into for my children's sake? And I guess this question is basically the question everybody has. How do I become a millionaire? And it's very simple. Someone who was a millionaire told me this. Georgette, you live below your means always, and you save and you invest the difference. So the powerful thing the powerful concept we have to get is we need to save. And we also need to take steps to prepare for when life happens. Now, this is something I see all the time in my practice, where a spouse or a breadwinner dies. Now, death is a road we all have to travel. And this breadwinner dies without life insurance. You have now left your children and the remaining spouse a life that they will never happen or never have now that you're not here. Why? You didn't have life insurance to take them through that rough patch. So yes, it's very simple. Two of the most powerful tools you can have to get yourself to become a millionaire or to change the status of your life and the life of your family is one, saving, and two, preparing for when life happens. Okay, now we have Bert on the line. Bert, what can we do for you?
Hey, Georgette. I'm scared to spend a large amount of money on my education, but I know it's my ticket to a better financial future. What do you think?
Bert, I am a proponent of higher education. I really believe that it's our ticket to the middle class. It's our important ticket to the middle class. However, if you've saved your money and you're about to invest this money in your education, so you're going to be spending cash, then my response to you is this. Get the most bang you can for your buck, get the best education you can for your cash dollars. However, if you're going to go into student loan debt for this education, then my response is almost the same. But it's basically this. You want to get the most you can for these borrowed dollars, but you also want to borrow the least amount you possibly can, because you don't want this huge morass or this huge albatross around your neck when you leave. Bert, cash is still king. Now, for those of you who want to hit us up with questions, please feel free to go to our Facebook page and send us the questions you have. This show is basically for you, the audience. We'll be right back. Okay, guys, this is a segment of the show where we basically have an honest conversation and we demystify the foolishness. Now, the show was about being a part of the middle class. And what you should take from this show is the fact that being a part of the middle class has very little to do with how many zeros you have behind your paycheck, how much you take home. Being a part of the middle class is the ability to pass down wealth, generational wealth. It's the ability to save. It's the ability to have savings so that when hard times come, you can weather that storm. Now, there's a story I'd like to share with you. I had a client that came into my office maybe about 2-3 months ago. She grew up in South Carolina as a sharecropper, and she came up north and had a hairdresser. It was a well-known doobie shop. And when she came into my office, she was 91 years old. When I was putting together a will, she had in various accounts somewhere in the neighborhood of about $900,000 in cash. And I asked her, now, this wasn't an educated woman. This was a woman that started out as a sharecropper in South Carolina. How did you do this? Her answer was very simple. Miss Miller, I never bought anything on credit, and I always saved. No matter how much it is we were taking in, I always had a little bit in my mattress. I always had a little bit in my till. And eventually somebody told me I need to put my money in the bank. So when you walk away from this show and you turn your TV off or you turn your computer off, hear this. Your ticket to the middle class and your ticket to remaining in the middle class is living below your means always and saving and investing the difference. Okay, guys, just to recap, we talked about the middle class, and the mere fact that you have several zeros behind your paycheck doesn't make you a resident member of the middle class. What makes you a member of the middle class is savings. What is the most important tool in your arsenal to either get into the middle class or remain in the middle class is your ability to save. You live below your means always, and you save and you invest the difference. Also, cash is still king. You know, if you walk into the store and you can't afford to buy it cash, it really isn't for you. Okay, thanks for joining us. And as they say in my country, walk good and I'll see you guys next week.